Once again, my students, we are back for item number 2, UNEB 2025, the paper which has been just done by the candidates, that is in senior 4. My name is Teacher Bukenya Innocent, teacher of chemistry and mathematics, and today we have come to look at item number 2, what indeed UNEB required of us from this item. When you look at item number 2, what are our expectations? We expect to meet topics like sequences and patterns, equations of lines and curves, algebra 1 and 2, mapping and relations, inequalities and regions, equation of a straight line, rectangular Cartesian plane, simultaneous equation, linear programming, and loci. But remember, for those people that watched the responses for item number 1 in our previous video, I told you not all these topics will appear, but at least you may find 3 in an item. So if you look at item number 2 for this case again, not all the topics I've mentioned that appeared, but at least we have some topics that came. Now, I want to tell you, if a student to pass, you must know exactly what is appearing in all items from item number up to item number 6. You must have the expectations. And out of those topics, please make sure that you choose some topics, the topics we call a must appear. It is very difficult to miss them. I don't say that they must come, but it's difficult to miss them. Now, specifically, if I look at item number 2, most of the times nowadays, we are meeting algebra 1 and 2, we are meeting inequalities and regions, we are meeting linear programming, we have met simultaneous equations. So, equations of lines and curves, equation of a straight line. So, a number of these ones are very common and they are not missing. So, I normally advise my students that before you can look at missing a certain topic, don't miss out algebra 1 and 2, don't miss out inequalities and regions, don't miss out linear programming, don't miss out simultaneous equations, and don't miss out equations of a straight line. They are very, very common with item number 2. Then add on the rest, but for those ones, they must read, you must pay attention to them so that you can pass this item. Now for today, and remember item 2 is a compulsory item. For today, we have this was item number 2. This was what you need to put on our tables. Let us get through it very quickly. We have Jaria has a cattle section and a goat section on her farm. She employed the farm manager. According to the manager's records, each worker in the cattle section takes care of 50 heads of cattle, and each worker in the goat section takes care of 30 goats. The farm has a total of 310 animals in both sections. Each worker in the cattle section is paid 150,000 shillings per month, and each worker in the goat section is paid 100,000 shillings per month. A total of 950,000 shillings is spent on paying workers every month. Jaria needs help to determine the number of workers in each section of the farm using the manager's records. The records also show that for the past 3 months, the manager has been selling milk to customers at a constant wholesale price as indicated in table 1. So hope you can see what is table 1. Have month 1, month 2, month 3, liters of milk in the first month, second month, and the third month, amount paid in the first month, second month, and third month. The manager has informed her that the farm is likely to produce 135 liters for sale at wholesale price next month. Jaria needs assistance to use the sales records to form an equation that she would use to determine the amount of money to be paid by any customer who buys any quantity of milk at wholesale price. The task help Jaria to part A, determine the number of workers in each section of the farm. Form an equation that she would use basing on the records and state the constant wholesale price of each liter of milk. Then calculate the amount of money she's likely to receive from the sale of milk next month. Now, most of the times with item number 2, I will advise you to read through the task. When you read through the question, without even not making a lot of analysis, but after reading through the question, check at the task. Remember, we also gave approaches for item number 1 in our first video. But for today, my advice is run to the task, check the task, determine the number of workers in each section of the farm. Form an equation that should use basing on the records and state the constant. Look at this word constant here. Constant wholesale price. Now, that word constant drives us exactly to the equation of a straight line. Okay? Some people here use proportionalities, but I would prefer you that you use the equation of the straight line, because we are forming an equation. That's 1, and 2, there is a constant we must look for. What? With a constant that we must look for. Now, let us analyze this question. Our first step is going to we are going to collect data from it. Maybe you shall look at the numerical values in this item so that we identify them, and after identifying those numerical values, we shall exactly have them in our summary. I told you write a small summary. Don't remember these items have a lot of words, so have just a small summary where you can summarize your work simply so that you can easily interpret the question. So according to me, you can see what I wrote here: proposed scoring guide for UCE UNEB Mathematics 2025 by teacher Bukanya Innocent. My numbers are there. Item number 2, summary. Now we have read through the item, and you know, if we rush back to the item, you see, according to the farm manager's records, each worker in the cattle section takes care of 50 heads. That means a worker takes care of 50 heads. What about in the goats section? A worker takes care of 30 goats. What about the total number of animals in both sections? So they are there. So according to that, you see how I came up with the summary. In the cattle section, 1 worker cares for 50 heads of cattle. In the goats section, 1 worker cares for 30 goats. Total number of animals equals to 310. What about the issues related with the employee, the salary of the workers? Each worker in the cattle section is paid 150,000 shillings per month. That is 1 worker. Then another worker in the goat section is paid 100,000 shillings per month. That's in the goat. Total amount of money paid to all workers in both sections every month is equaling to 950,000 shillings. So if you look at that, then you can see again in my summary, in the cattle section, 1 worker takes that amount per month. Then in the goatee section, 1 worker still takes 100,000 shillings per month. Then all workers equals to 950,000 shillings per month. So in all the many words we've given, I have tried to summarize in just something that can be easily understandable. I didn't summarize the table because the table itself is a summary of how the business has been running throughout this farm. Now I'm going direct to the task. Help Jaria, part A, determine the number of workers in each section of the farm. Now remember, if 1 worker takes care of 50 heads and another worker takes care of 30 goats, and it's a total of 310 animals. That means if I get the number of the heads of cattle, multiply with the number of workers, plus the goats multiplied by the number of workers, I'll be coming up with the total number of the animals they take care of. That's why I came and said that task part A, number of workers in each section. Let X represent the number of workers in the cattle section, and Y represent the number of workers in the GOT section. Please and please, when you're letting anything that's not in the question, be very careful. Clearly explain or clearly tell the examiner what you're doing. Look at this. Represent, I've said that let X represent number of workers in the cattle what? In the cattle section. So you must be very smart in your representations. If you're introducing any unknown, please clearly describe it. Now, describing these variables, I'm even a mark here. That's why I awarded F equals to 1. Let Y represent number of workers in the GOTC section. I told you, if you get the number of the cattle multiplied by the number of workers, still the number of goats each worker takes care of, still multiply with the number of workers, the total of this shall give us the total. That one will give us the total workers or the number of the workers in each section. Now here we came and multiplied 50 times X, that 50, that is now the number of cattle taken care of by a single worker. That means to get the number, if I get the number of workers that are working the cattle section, multiply them with the 50, I'll get the total number of the cattle. Likewise to the goat C. So if I get 30 times Y, total the number of workers, still I'll get the total number of what? Goat C. Now if I get the total of cattle plus the total of goats, I'll be coming up with the total number of the what? The animals. So I formed an equation that is 50x plus 30y equaling to 310, which I can reduce by 10 to come up with 5x plus 3y equals to 31, and that gives me equation 1. So forming that equation, we still earn you a mark. Also, amount paid to workers in the cattle section. Still, I don't know how many workers are there, but I let my workers to be X. That means to get the total amount of money in only the cattle section, I will get that amount times the number of workers X. Likewise, amount paid to workers in the goat section, I'll get that amount times the number of workers. Now the total of the two will give me the total amount of money paid per month in the whole farm, which is 950,000 shillings. Now, still from that, I will form another equation. I will reduce it by 50,000 because carrying a bigger equation will still disturb you in your manipulations. So what you do, if it is reducible, you can find a factor and reduce so that you may neglect it or you may avoid a Baruch equation. So from there, we form equation 2. Now because I have equation 1 and 2, I can solve them simultaneously. Like here I said, solve equation 1 and 2 simultaneously. We solve it where we said in our first video for item number 1, we said you must be very clear. Make sure that you communicate to the examiner. A person marking you must not ask himself any question because someone marking you wants to be communicated to. What are you doing? I'm solving this. What are you doing? I'm doing this. Don't let those people ask themselves any question. So solving equation 1 and 2 simultaneously, of course there we shall be getting the value of x and the value of y. Therefore, we come to our response. Now, how would we respond? Response is what exactly the task wanted. Okay? Then we shall come and say, therefore, there are 5 workers in the cattle section and 2 workers in the goods section. That's why I have application 2 equals to 1 and application 2 equals to 1. So it is actually, UNEB knows how it scores this, but according to me, that's how I would have scored this item. Part B required us to come up with the equation that she would use basing on that record Z. Now, if you look at this fact, we can still read it clearly and understand what Part B wanted. It says Part B Roman 1, help Jaria to form an equation she would use basing on the records and state the constant wholesale price of each liter of milk. I told you that word constant. Most of the times you find the questions recurring constant price, maybe constant amount needed to do this. So most of the times we run to the equations of a straight line. Okay, let us go to how I answer this. Again, I'm giving another variable, and I told you must be very smart in giving the variables here. Any unknown that you introduce, make sure that you talk about it very clearly. Let Y represent the amount of money paid by customers, that is in shillings, and let X represent the amount of what? Milk. Now we have two variables which are varying in maybe in any way which you have not understood. But again, we want to come up with an equation to see in which constant are they varying. Using the equation of a straight line, y equals to mx plus c. Okay, so we have the y-intercept, we have the gradient, which is m. So from there, we choose 2 points, remember, from our table. That's where we got these 2 points. So I chose to use this. I let y become, because actually here some people get confused on which to make the other, but again I would prefer that look at the liters of milk. It is the milk which is sold. That means the liters of milk are multiplied by an amount you've not understood to get the amount of shillings required, the amount of money from these liters. So you find out that the amount of shillings is the big amount, or it is the milk that's multiplied to another amount to make this amount. So let it be the y. Let it represent the y values. So we chose to take those values to give us the gradient. Okay, and remember, from the gradient we said y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So amount of shillings, I took my y2 minus y1 over then the amount of liters, hope you can see, and then I came up with a gradient of m equaling to 1,500. So from there now I will need to come up with the value of c. C is the y-intercept, which you want also to get, and okay, if you look at that c is very important in determining our in our equation here, but because it was 0, so it was actually it didn't exactly change this equation. There was no greater change. So if you come here, we are saying from y equals to mx, and we are using the other last point. We use a point of 120 and 180,000 shillings. The other last point in the table which we didn't use in our equation. So from there, that's the one we should use with m, because we are looking for the constant wholesale price for each liter. So you discover that the points you didn't use to get the gradient are the ones now you apply in here. So we come up, we get the value of c, and the c was giving us a what? A 0. So we had to substitute back in our equation. So from this equation, y equals to mx plus c equals to 0. Therefore, we can come up with the equation equaling to y equals to 1,500x. And then constant wholesale for each liter. Now because each liter, that is 1 liter. So remember, x is the number of liters. So I just brought my y equals to 1,500 times 1, which you can see here. So y equaling to 1,500. So the equation she would use based on the records is y equals to 1,500x, and the constant wholesale price for each liter of milk is now this amount here, which is 1,500. Now, part B, Roman 2, required us to find the amount of money she is likely to receive from the sale of milk in the next month. Now, because we have already our equation here already formed, we shall just get this equation here, then you multiply by x, and this time now x, remember we said we let x to be the number of liters, and now we know the number of liters which is more likely to say on the next math will be 135. So get this amount, 1500 times 135, get the value of y, which is the amount, which gave us something like 202,500. Then come and give your response. So she's likely to receive 202,500 shillings from the sale of milk next month. Okay, so that was our item. So if there is any question, please you can WhatsApp me on this number 0781 82 1076, or you can go in the comment section and put your comment there. We shall be appreciating you and shall be thanking you. So I advise you, please go to YouTube, put in Teacher Bukenya Innocent, subscribe, then turn on the notification bar. Then after from that you will be notified for whichever video I upload. And also urge you, please, for any point of correction, I'm always open to corrections. Please correct me and I'll be so much grateful. Okay, let us meet next time. Hope to come back with the item number 3 very soon. Thank you so much. I love you all. Stay blessed.